He said that the act of faith, unmerited favor, to make it stable and valid and guaranteed to all his descendants. Well, in Galatians 3, Jesus was a seed, and everybody that come after him got to participate in that blessing. We're a descendant because of Jesus of Abraham. And he says this, why did he make it by faith? So the favor of God could come upon the body of Christ to make it stable and valid and guaranteed to all descendants. Say, I'm one of the descendants. I got a God-given guarantee. A God-given guarantee. I'll tell you one thing, it's better than General Motors' guarantee because he ain't going bankrupt. I mean, we go buy a new car and we don't even think nothing of it. We go down there, and a lot of times, I bet you most of y'all that bought a new car didn't even check out how stable the company was that sold it to you. You know, you don't think about going in, I want to look at your bank records. I want to look at your profit and loss. Now if you work for one of them companies, they're all about bottom line. But the thing about it is, they expect you just to accept them because they're on the corner. Well, we've already got a proven mandate that we know works, that our forefathers depended on, that people all the way back to Abraham was dependent on, and it worked for them, and that's good enough for me. If you've got a document that's over 6,000 years old that's still holding up and still is true, and the prophecies are still coming out exact, then I would say we got a good guarantee here. God said, I'll back up my covenant with myself. Okay, now, we settle there that we believe we can trust the promises of God. Okay? So he says this. Not only to the devotees or the Jews in the adherence of the law, but also to those who share the faith of Abraham, talking about you and I, who is thus the father of us all. Say, I've been engrafted in. I'm a child of God. I have an inheritance. But he's already died. And it's already been given. You see, when he died, the will went into effect. And the probate judge said they all got to have their share. But the thing of it is, there's no lack in the share. You can keep coming back and getting it. Do you understand? When he died, the will was completed. The testator, the will, it all come to pass. And that's where I get so frustrated. People still waiting on God to do something, and God's already done it. And the will's been signed. The blood has been spilled. And he's given you, through faith, how to access the promise of God. Well, that's what it said. How does the promise come? See, we got three people. How does the promise come? I'm not the only one that needs to be preaching in this house. How does the promise come? Through faith. Why does it have to come by faith? So that it can be through grace, the unmerited favor of God, and it makes an even playing field, and it don't make any difference where you is born, when you is born, or how you is born. You've been engrafted in, and you got the will of God already given to you. The probate judge has already given it, already declared it. Didn't cost you nothing. Come into the presence of God. Says this, as it is written. Everybody say, as it is written. I have made you the father of many nations. He was appointed our father in the sight of God, in whom he believed. Now, this is where I'm coming to. I've talked about it a lot of times, but I don't think we've got it totally yet. And I want you to know this is an encouragement and an exhortation to the body of Christ to understand your potential. This father, Abraham, give us something. He gave us an opportunity through Jesus the seed, because he kept his part of the covenant. God always keeps his part of the covenant, and God's kept his part of the covenant with you. So he says this: Father Abraham believed in the sight of God in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and speaks. What does your word become? Spirit. He speaks to the non-existent thing. Actually, it says he speaks of the non-existent thing. You speak to the existent thing that's in your way. You speak of the non-existent thing. You speak to the mountain of adversity. You speak of the promise of God. You understand? Okay. This God gives life to the dead, and he actually speaks of the non-existent things as if they already existed. I remember the day I planted them 2 peach trees over about 45 years ago. Y'all didn't know I had a kid that old, did you? And I remember in Godly, Texas, putting that peach seed in the ground. And I remember to this day, because I put it out where Mother's wash machine water went. And I had no doubt that those trees would produce. I planted it, dedicated them to the birth of our kids, and said they're going to give life for years. And every time I look at those trees, I'm going to see the life of God coming out. And I'm going to thank God for my kids. Did you know what? I just put them in the ground. I walked off and left them. Went all over the world. Come back a few years later, right in the season. And they were so... Mother had to get out there with 2 befores and 1 befores and prop the trees up because there was so many peaches on them. That good old soapy water kept the bugs off of them and made them babies produce. They was watered good. And I just got to think of the non-existent thing. You have got a seed in you that's non-existent. But if you will speak of the non-existent thing, I'm a child of God. You can't see that you're a child of God unless you look through the eye of faith. I have a promise of God. Everything. You know, we think about just work or business. Everything you put your hand to will prosper. Okay, when you start out, I know little kids, when they start out at 4 years old, 5, they can talk. A lot of them already know what they want to be. They start talking about what they want to be. They start doing things, playing and practicing what they want to be, even at 4 and 5 years old. And you know what they're doing unbeknownst to them, because God put something in them whenever they start working on bicycles and tricycles and all the stuff they're learning through experience, something they're going to do when they get grown. Only thing we don't want them doing too early if they're a brain surgeon. But what I'm saying is, God has put something in you. And just because it hasn't manifest, if you'll walk by faith in your lifetime,